What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my 5 favorite games that released this year. Now that said, these are full releases, these are not games that re-released onto a new platform or remasters or anything like that. These are games that saw their full first release in 2021. Now, I review a lot of games on this channel, and while I would say each and every one of these games has their faults, which you can certainly go watch my reviews on them to hear my thoughts about, these are still, despite those things, just my personal favorite releases this year. So, to jump into it from there, in our number 5 spot, we have a game that just released a few days ago, actually, and that is Mecha Jammer. Now, Mecha Jammer is definitely not for everybody. It definitely takes an older approach to things like finding quests and navigating, that type of stuff, and a lot of people are going to jump into it, have a lot of trouble, and probably decide they don't like it, to be honest. But what really stands out to me about Mecha Jammer is just the world. So you're exploring this cyberpunk dystopia city. The art style, to me personally, is pretty intriguing. But in exploring this cyberpunk dystopia, there are occult elements, there's like post-apocalypse elements, and just that kind of general world, combined with the fact that it's almost a CRPG meets immersive sim-style experience, where you are actually in an open world that has been built for you to interact and do things with in an immersive sim style. And Mecha Jammer is just a really unique game that I'm a big fan of. Next on our list, we have Solasta, Crown of the Magister. I like Solasta a lot. It is a D&D dungeon crawling experience for the most part. It uses a mix of homebrew rules combined with the SRD rule set for 5th edition D&D. And it's really about the tactical flow of combat, and there is a story that accompanies Solasta, but unfortunately it's just kind of okay. With that said, Solasta was still a ton of fun, especially if you're just a fan of 5th edition D&D, especially the combat portions, and we don't really see 5e that much in video games, especially such a rules as written adaptation, and they did such a great job with Solasta, that is to say Tactical Adventures, the developer, that I'm kind of excited to see what they've got up their sleeve next. And number 3, that brings us to Encased. Now, Encased was inspired by a lot of things. The original Fallout's a book called Roadside Picnic. You can see some elements from the Stalker franchise in there, all of which the developers have cited as their inspiration for the game, and that really shows, because Encased sees you in a sort of sci-fi kind of post-apocalypse, but not exactly, because you're only in one area of the world called the Dome that has been cut off from the outside world, which is actually just presumably in a normal state. But Encased really embraced choices and letting you choose how to play the game and how to approach quests and things the way you want to. And there's just so many different things you can do in Encased. You can do pacifist runs, you can kill everyone. You can do a mastermind run, which is where you actually use your companions and never kill a person yourself. There's several factions you can interact with or ignore completely. And there is just so much going on that if you are a fan of the first 2 Fallout games or any post-apocalyptic CRPG, you should really give Encased a try. The only real problems with Encased is that it was more of a AA title in a lot of ways, so some of the animations and things are a little lackluster, but beyond that, it is still a really fun game that I wish people would check out more. And that brings us to our number 2 spot, and this is actually Biomutant. So Biomutant isn't a game that is entirely up my alley per se, but it was just so weird and out there that I really just had to play it, you know what I mean? And while I didn't really stick with it after I finished it up for my review of it, it is a game I remember and I had a lot of fun with it. And Biomutant being a very bright and colorful world full of all these fluffy animal type things, my son and I, who was a toddler, he actually played it a lot with me and he got a real blast out of it. And Biomutant kind of became one of the first games that I got to play with my son. Even if he didn't fully understand what he was doing, he was just very captured by all the animals and stuff, and that's just not an experience I'm going to soon forget. And even ignoring that sentimental part of it, which of course matters to me, the game itself was just weird and fun, and the combat was just a lot of fun. And while nothing about Biomutant is a particularly deep or engaging game, most of the systems are fairly straightforward and simple, nonetheless, the game is just a ton of weird, crazy fun. And I enjoyed that a lot, especially when the backbone of what I do is a lot of really deep and complex RPGs. Sometimes it's nice to just step back and have a blast playing a game, and Biomutant kind of filled that role for me. And then, first on this list, which is a surprise to absolutely no one, we have Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. So if you follow my channel at all, I covered this game to death. Most of the channel's growth can probably be attributed to this and Pathfinder Kingmaker, and as someone who is really into CRPGs, Wrath of the Righteous kind of ticked all the boxes for me and is exactly what I want from video games in a lot of ways. And if you include things like the beta, my review copy, the actual full release game, I've got approaching 650, 675 hours total in it, and it's just a really satisfying experience. So there you go, guys, my top 5 games that released in 2021. Tell me all about your list down in the comments section below, because again, these are just the games I personally enjoyed the most. But all of that said, truly, thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.